Welcome to this vocabulary masterclass. Today you are going to learn over 150 words that you can use in your daily speech. Of course, I'm Jennifer from JForrest English. Now let's get started. First, in this masterclass, you are going to learn 22 small talk phrases, and all of these phrases will help you feel confident starting conversations with native speakers. Let's get started. First of all, you might be wondering, what is small talk? Small talk is polite conversation about unimportant and uncontroversial topics. Remember, unimportant. Small talk is supposed to be boring. Now, when can you make small talk? First of all, notice I said you make small talk. That's the verb you use, make small talk. I learned how to make small talk today. So let's talk about when you make small talk. Maybe you get to a meeting early and there are 3 to 5 minutes before the meeting starts. Perfect time to make small talk. You're in the elevator with a coworker or someone you don't know. Or maybe you're waiting in line at the grocery store or the bank. Or a perfect time when you sit down beside a stranger. Like when you sit down on a plane and you're going to be sitting next to that person for 5 hours. You can make small talk. Let's talk about why you should make small talk. This will help you understand why it's supposed to be boring. Because small talk is just to fill silence. So if your elevator ride takes 30 seconds, you can go down 30 seconds in silence, or you can have 30 seconds of a boring conversation with your coworker or a stranger. The choice is yours. It's also to make the other person feel more comfortable. If you sit down on that plane and you're going to be sitting beside this other person for 5 hours, simply exchanging a few words will make both of you feel more comfortable. So now let's talk about all the phrases that you need to make small talk just like a native speaker. The first category is the weather. Nothing is more boring than talking about the weather, so it's the perfect topic for small talk. Now, because we work virtually now and you have members of your team all over the world, you can say, "What's the weather like in Toronto today?" Assuming you're not in Toronto. So you can ask them, "Oh, what's the weather like in your city today?" Now, don't worry about writing down any of these phrases because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. You can make a simple statement like, "Beautiful day, isn't it?" That's a great one with a stranger when you're going in an elevator. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Notice you're adding "isn't it" as a question tag. You could say, "I hear it's supposed to rain this weekend." So it's supposed to, that's in the future. "Oh, I hear it's supposed to rain tonight, tomorrow, the next day, in the weekend, next month," any future reference. You can make a general statement, "I'm really looking forward to spring." And the other person will likely say, "Yeah, me too. It's been such a long winter. I know, right?" And then you just naturally have a boring conversation about the weather. Another simple statement, looks like another hot weekend. And then again, just like before, "Yeah, doesn't it? What are you going to do?" And then you can naturally start talking about the weather, or you can transition into the weekend, which we will learn about in just a second. One final expression for you. This one is a question. Is it still snowing? Now you can use this one if you have been in the office or inside and you're asking someone and you know they were just outside. Or you might not know, but you're assuming that they've been outside. Is it still snowing? Is it still raining? Is it still cloudy? Is it still sunny? And then obviously you use whatever weather is appropriate for the specific time. Another boring category that everyone loves talking about, traffic. Just ask your coworker or that stranger in the elevator, How was the traffic? How was the traffic coming in this morning, leaving, whatever the time of day is? Now, if you know the person takes a specific route, then you could ask them, did you get stuck in the traffic on Main Street too? Because you know your coworker or the person you're talking to had to take Main Street. Now, even if this is a stranger, but you're at the airport, so they have to take a certain road to get to the airport, so you can still use this with strangers. You can make a simple statement like, the bus was 20 minutes late today. So you don't need a car to use these. You can use whatever method of transportation that you use. Another question for you. Do you know when? And then ask something traffic related. Do you know when the bridge is supposed to be fixed? And this is a bridge that the person you're talking to will 100% know is under construction. Again, this could be with a stranger because to get to the airport, you have to go over a bridge. Now, keep in mind when you're making small talk, you don't actually care about the answer. Remember, that's not the goal. The goal isn't to find out when the bridge is going to be fixed. The goal is simply to have a boring conversation, to fill time, to kill time, and to make the other person feel comfortable. Our next category, topical events. A topical event is simply something that people are talking about right now. It could be a holiday, a sports event, it could be a new movie, something on the news. It's topical, people are talking about it. So if it's the time of year of the Olympics, or just before, just after, and you're sitting next to a stranger on the train, you could just ask them, oh, what's your favorite Olympic sport? And the question will seem normal and natural because everyone is talking about the Olympics. Or if it's award season, you could ask, who do you think will win Best Actor? If it's a holiday, a major holiday, you could ask them, are you staying in New York for Christmas? Or you could ask another question related to that holiday. Around Thanksgiving in North America, everyone buys a turkey. So it would seem extremely appropriate to ask someone, even a stranger, have you bought your turkey yet? And it could turn into a really interesting conversation because they might have a story about it, or they might say, oh, actually, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving because I'm from, and maybe they're from a different country. And then even if they don't celebrate it, you can still have an interesting conversation. So it's a great conversation starter. Maybe there's a community event and you can ask them, do you know anyone running the marathon this weekend? And even if the answer is no, well, then you can still go back and forth. Oh yeah, me neither. I don't like sports too much. Oh, what do you like? And then it will naturally evolve. Movies are a great choice. There's always a new movie or a new Netflix show or even a new popular YouTube video. And you could ask them, have you seen the new Star Wars movie yet? And even if they say no, oh, what kind of movies do you like? Oh, you don't like movies? You like music? What kind of music do you like? And the conversation can naturally evolve. Just remember that small talk should be boring and non-controversial. Of course, elections are topical events, but you don't want to talk about elections when you're having small talk with a stranger or someone in the elevator. You should not ask them, did you vote yet? Who did you vote for? That is inappropriate for small talk. Our final category, the weekend, something everyone loves talking about. Now keep in mind, if this is on a Tuesday, you can talk about the last weekend. If this is on a Thursday, the future weekend, and if it's on a Wednesday, well, you can decide. You can talk about either one, past or future. So there's always a weekend to discuss. Did you do anything exciting this weekend? Now, this is in the past, maybe on a Monday or Tuesday. You can just change this to the future if it's Thursday or Friday. Are you doing anything exciting this weekend? What are you up to this weekend? Native speakers love using this expression. That's in the future. In the past, what were you up to this weekend? Being this past weekend. An easy one. Do you have any plans? Do you have any plans this weekend? Asking for a recommendation or advice, again, even if you don't actually want the recommendation or advice, is a great conversation starter. You can ask, do you know of any events happening this weekend? Or can you recommend? Can you recommend a great Italian restaurant or just restaurant in general or whatever restaurant you want? Or you could ask them, what's your favorite cafe near here? I love asking this question because I get to go to new places I would never find on my own. And I have tried some amazing spots just by asking strangers, oh, what's your favorite restaurant near here? What's your favorite cafe near here? You always learn interesting results. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Now you are going to learn 50 important idioms that native speakers use in our daily speech. A blessing in disguise. This is when a situation seems bad or unlucky at first, but it results in something positive at a later date. So let's say you get fired from your job. Obviously that seems bad, maybe even unlucky. But later on, you get a job 10 times better. It pays better, you have a better boss, better coworkers, the location is better. Everything about this job is better. You can say, getting fired was a blessing in disguise. My new job is so much better. A dime a dozen. This is used to describe something that is common and not special. So you can say tech startups in Silicon Valley are a dime a dozen. They're very common, they're everywhere, and they're not very special. Everyone's a tech startup in Silicon Valley, a dime a dozen. To beat around the bush. This is when you avoid saying what you mean because it's uncomfortable or awkward. So let's say you want to end your romantic relationship with your partner. Your friend could tell you, don't beat around the bush. Be direct and tell that person you want to break up. Better late than never. So let's say you've been working with a company for 10 years and you finally got your first promotion. After 10 years, and you're telling your friend this, and you're a little annoyed because you've been there for 10 years, but your friend could say, better late than never, to remind you that yes, it took 10 years, but it's better than not having a promotion. Better late than never. To bite the bullet. I love this idiom. This is when you force yourself to do something difficult or unpleasant because it's necessary or inevitable. Inevitable means eventually you have to do it, so why not bite the bullet and do it now? For example, just bite the bullet and ask your boss for a promotion. Break a leg. This is a very common idiom that we use to say good luck. Good luck, break a leg. But we especially use this before someone gives a performance. Most commonly a theatrical performance, but when you're going for a job interview, you are in a sense performing. Or when you're doing your speaking exam for your IELTS, you are performing. So before your speaking exam, your friend, your partner could say, break a leg, which means good luck. To call it a day. When you call it a day, it means you stop working for that day. Usually because time is up or because you've done enough work for that day and you're going to stop. For example, it's getting late, let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. So that means you can go home. To cut somebody some slack. So let's say there's this coworker who has been showing up late to work every day and not doing a very good job at work. They seem very distracted, they're not working very hard, they're not contributing. But that person's dad just died. So you might say, let's cut him some slack. His dad just died. So you're not going to punish him as severely as you normally would. To be glad to see the back of. This means that you're happy that somebody has left because you don't like them. So let's say it's Jane's last day at work. She quit, she has a new job, but you didn't like Jane. You can say, I'm glad to see the back of Jane. To be the best thing since sliced bread. This is a compliment used to say that something, usually technology or an invention, is extremely useful, excellent, or high quality. So you could give me a compliment and say, this YouTube channel is the best thing since sliced bread. If you think that's true, then put it in the comments. There are plenty of fish in the sea. So let's say your friend went on a date and she says, Pierre hasn't called me back and it's been 3 weeks. You can encourage your friend by saying, don't worry, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Come rain or shine. This is used to say that an event will take place despite external circumstances. So let's say tomorrow is a vacation day for you, but there's a big project deadline tomorrow. But you might say, I'm taking the day off tomorrow, come rain or shine. To cut corners. This is when you do something in the cheapest, easiest, or fastest way, but by omitting something or by not following rules. So you might say, we felt pressured to cut corners because of the tight deadline. To get your act together. So your parents might say to you or your sibling or someone you know, you're 30 and you still live at home and you don't have a job. You need to get your act together. You need to organize yourself so you can live in an effective and efficient way. Get your act together. To break the ice. This is such an important one because this is used to help people who don't know each other to feel more comfortable around each other, especially when they're meeting for the first time. Let's break the ice by introducing ourselves and sharing something interesting about ourselves. Clear as mud. This is used to say that something is very difficult to understand. So if somebody gave you instructions, but their instructions didn't make any sense at all, and they ask you, So is everything okay? Do you understand? You can say clear as mud, which tells the person you do not understand at all. Crystal clear. Something is very clear and easy to understand. His instructions were crystal clear. To rock the boat. This is when you do or say something that could upset people or cause problems. Don't rock the boat until the negotiations are done. So don't say anything that could upset someone or that could cause problems until we sign the deal. And then you can cause problems if you want to. To get out of hand, this is another way of saying to get out of control, which means you no longer have control over a situation. You could say the party got out of hand, which means you were no longer able to control it. The party got out of hand and some valuables were broken. A bad apple. This is used to describe a bad or corrupt person within a group. You could say, there are a few bad apples in the company. To cut to the chase. This is when you only talk about the most important points of a subject or topic. So if you're running out of time in a meeting, you might say, we're running out of time, so I'll cut to the chase. I'll only say the most important points. To come in handy. This is used when something is very useful for a specific purpose. So if it's pouring rain outside, you might say an umbrella would come in handy. An umbrella would be very useful in this particular situation. To reinvent the wheel. This is when you waste time trying to recreate something that somebody else has already created. So let's say you ask your boss, should I create a presentation for the conference? And your boss suggests using last year's presentation. It's already created. And your boss can add, don't reinvent the wheel. So we often use this idiom in the negative. To go with the flow. When you go with the flow, it means that you do what other people are doing, or you agree with the opinion of others, the majority. So let's say you're having a company dinner and you originally wanted to have burgers, but the majority of people say they want pizza. So you can go with the flow and have pizza instead of burgers because that's what the majority wants. To be skating on thin ice. This is when you do something that is dangerous or involves risk. He's skating on thin ice by lying to his wife. It involves risk. It's dangerous. Don't do it. A silver lining. This is something positive that comes from something negative. So the pandemic is negative, right? But is there anything positive, a silver lining? Maybe we could say one silver lining of the pandemic is that it made us realize how important our relationships are with friends and family. To have a sweet tooth. This is somebody who likes eating sweet foods, especially chocolate. So if people offer me dessert, generally I'll say no because I don't like sweet food. So I could say, no thank you, I don't have a sweet tooth, which means I don't really like sweet foods. To go Dutch. This is when you agree to share the cost of something, especially a meal. So let's say you're having dinner with a friend, family member, even a romantic partner, and they say, I'll pay for the meal. You could say, no, let's go Dutch, which means you're going to divide the cost 50-50. To make ends meet. This is when you have just enough money to pay for essential items. You might say, with food prices increasing, we're barely making ends meet. To ring a bell. This is when something, usually a person, a place, or information, is familiar to you. So let's say you're having a conversation with a coworker and they say, oh, have you met Fred from accounting? And you're thinking, Fred from accounting? That doesn't ring a bell. The tip of the iceberg. This is used to describe a small part of a much bigger problem. These small local protests are just the tip of the iceberg to blow off steam. This is when you say or do something that helps you release strong feelings or strong energy, strong emotion. After our fight, I went for a walk to blow off steam. So when you were on that walk, you were able to calm down, to release that negative energy. A piece of cake. This is something that was extremely easy. That exam was a piece of cake. To be out of the woods. This is when you no longer have a problem or difficulty. Our profits are increasing, but we're not out of the woods yet. To get over something. This is when you recover from an illness. It took me 2 weeks to get over that cold. To not be one's cup of tea. This is used to describe a type or category that you don't like. Thanks for the invite, but camping isn't my cup of tea. I don't like that category of activity. To be loaded. This means to be rich, to have a lot of money. I just found out my cousin's loaded. To nip something in the bud. This is to stop something before it has an opportunity to become established. We need to nip these rumors in the bud before the employees start worrying. Out of the blue. When something happens out of the blue, it happens suddenly and you weren't expecting it. My boss gave me a promotion out of the blue. You weren't expecting it. How awesome is that? To keep one's chin up. This is to remain cheerful in a difficult situation, because in difficult situations, we tend to put our chin down, but when we're happy, we tend to keep our chin up. For example, I know the economy seems bad, but keep your chin up. To race against the clock. This is when you try to finish a task quickly before a specific time. I raced against the clock to finish the audit and meet the deadline. To catch somebody off guard. This is when you surprise somebody by doing something they weren't expecting or weren't prepared for. The politician was caught off guard when asked about the scandal. To be on one's radar. If something is on your radar, it means you're considering it or thinking about it or aware of it. You could say leaving the company isn't on my radar. It's not even something I'm considering. To stab someone in the back. This is to betray someone. To do something harmful to someone who trusted you. She told the client she did all the work on the project. I can't believe she stabbed me in the back like that. To make a beeline for something. This is when you move quickly and directly towards something. So let's say you're at a wedding or a conference and they're about to serve lunch, the buffet lunch. Everyone made a beeline for the food. They went quickly and directly to the food. To be in hot water. This is when you're in a situation where you might be criticized or punished. The politician's in hot water after his comments on gender equality. To To be dressed to the nines. This is when you're dressed formally, smartly, or fashionably. We dress to the nines for our wedding anniversary. So you usually dress to the nines for a special occasion. To be between a rock and a hard place. This is when you're in a difficult situation or you have to make a difficult decision. If I accept the promotion, then I'll have to move abroad, and I know Matt, my partner, won't come with me. So I either accept the promotion that I really want, but then I have to lose Matt, or I stay with Matt and I don't get the promotion. I'm between a rock and a hard place. It's a difficult situation. It's a difficult decision. Lo and behold, this is an expression used to say that something surprising happened. I was on vacation in Japan, and lo and behold, I saw my childhood sweetheart. So it was very surprising that I see my childhood sweetheart across the world in a foreign city. Lo and behold. And finally, number 50, to let the cat out of the bag. This is when you accidentally reveal a secret. So let's say you're planning a surprise party for your wife or husband or friend and they know about it. You might say, you know about the party, don't you? Who let the cat out of the bag? Who told you? Who revealed the secret? Who let the cat out of the bag? Amazing job adding those idioms to your vocabulary. Now let's move on and you'll learn 50 opinion words that you can use to express your opinion naturally and professionally. Are you ready to add 50 plus phrases to your vocabulary to confidently share your opinions? Of course, you can use this when you're in meetings at work, you're giving a presentation, you're talking to some friends, you're going to a networking event, you're at a party. So you can use this in more formal and informal situations as well. Now let's get started with first sharing your personal opinion. Let's say you're in a work meeting and you have an idea you want to share with everyone. We should hire a marketing expert to build our website. You can absolutely say that, but you can sound more professional, more advanced if you use an opinion word. Now, there are many different phrases you can use to share your personal opinion. I recommend starting with 2 to 3 that you like the most, and then you can add more once you get comfortable with them so you have variety and you're not always using the same one. Here's the list. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, from my point of view, personally, I think that. In my view, I'd say that. I believe that. I strongly, firmly believe that. I'm convinced that. There's no doubt in my mind that. I feel that. In my mind, it seems to me that. So let's take our idea again. We should hire a marketing expert to build our website. As far as I'm concerned, we should hire a marketing expert. In my opinion, in my mind, personally, I think that we should hire a marketing expert. So you can use any one of these. And remember, variety is key. You don't always want to say, in my opinion. You can absolutely use that, but you want to have variety. Now let's talk about agreeing with an opinion. So you're in a meeting and a colleague says, we should postpone the conference. Or your colleague used an opinion word and said, I firmly believe that we should postpone the conference. Now let's say that you agree with your colleague. What can you say? Well, again, here's a big list. Start with 1 to 2 and add them as you get comfortable. I agree. I agree with you. I think so too. That's a good point. You're right. Definitely, absolutely. I second that. I couldn't have said it better myself. I couldn't agree more. We're on the same page. You hit the nail on the head. So your colleague says, from my perspective, we should postpone the conference. And you say, I couldn't agree more. We should postpone the conference. You're right. We should postpone the conference. Absolutely, we should postpone the conference. I agree with you. Now let's say your colleague shared an opinion that started with, I don't think. I don't think we should postpone the conference. Personally, I don't think we should postpone the conference. We have one very specific phrase that you can use when you want to agree with a negative opinion. Do you know what that is? In my mind, I don't think we should postpone the conference. Neither do I. Neither do I. You only use this when you're agreeing with I don't think. Neither do I. Now let's talk about disagreeing with an opinion. So you're in a meeting and your colleague says, in my mind, we should look for a new supplier. Now you don't agree. What can you say? You can say, I disagree with you. I'm afraid I disagree. On the contrary, I understand where you're coming from, but I respect your opinion, but that's a good point. However, I see your point, but I have a different perspective. I think, can I share my opinion? That's one way of looking at it, but have you considered the fact that? Now, the first one I shared, I disagree with you, is probably the least commonly used because it sounds argumentative. And we generally want to say this softly to someone. So it's way more common to say, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I disagree with you. It makes it a lot softer. Or you could acknowledge that I respect your opinion, but I don't think that's a good idea. I respect your opinion, but I think we should keep our supplier. My personal favorite in this category is I understand where you're coming from, but, and then you share your opinion or whatever information you like. I understand where you're coming from. This is another way of saying I respect your opinion. I understand where you're coming from, but right now isn't the best time to change our suppliers because it's our busiest time of year. We should wait until Q4. And remember, you can add your personal opinion words as well. From my perspective, in my mind, from my point of view, we should wait until Q4. So you can absolutely combine these different opinion words together. Now let's talk about sharing a general opinion. So something that most people would agree with. Here's a statement. Repetition is key when you're learning any new skill. Now, I personally believe this, but it's not my opinion per se. This is just a commonly held opinion by most people, by many different people. So here are some general opinion words you can use. It's said that, it's believed that, I've heard that, it's considered that, it's generally accepted that, most agree that, some say that, it goes without saying that, researchers, experts suggest that. So I could say it's generally accepted that repetition is key when you're learning any new skill. And personally, I agree. And personally, I couldn't have said it better myself. So you absolutely can share a general opinion, but then agree with that general opinion using one of the phrases you've already learned. Or maybe you want to disagree with this statement. Well, then of course you can use one of the phrases to disagree. On the contrary, repetition isn't that important. I'm afraid I disagree. Repetition isn't that important. In my mind, and then you can share your opinion. And finally, let's talk about how to ask someone for their opinion. So let's say I shared a general opinion. Most agree that repetition is key when learning a new skill. And I want to ask for your opinion on this specific topic. I can say, do you agree? What's your opinion? What do you think? What are your thoughts? What's your view? How do you see the situation? What's your take on it? What about you? How about you? Has that been your experience? What has your experience been? Are we on the same page? Is that something you would support too? So if you're talking to someone who's currently learning a new skill, it could be really interesting to ask them, has that been your experience? What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree? Finally, in this masterclass, let's talk about phrasal verbs. You are going to learn 40 phrasal verbs with get. To get ahead. This means to progress, so to make progress towards something. And we most commonly use this in a career setting or academic setting. For example, if you want to get ahead, you need fluent English. Would you agree with that? Put that in the comments. If you want to get ahead, you need fluent English. Now notice how I didn't specify get ahead in what. If you want to get ahead at work, in your career, so don't forget that. But you can also just say if you want to get ahead. To get along with. Most students know this one. Do you know this one? When you get along with someone, it means you have a good relationship with that person. I really get along with my boss. But we commonly use this in the negative. I don't get along with my boss. So you can use it in both the positive or the negative. So which describes you? I get along with my boss. I don't get along with my boss. To get away. This means to escape. So you can use this in two contexts. The criminal got away. So that means he escaped. The robber got away. He stole my car and he got away. He escaped. But we also use this more in the sense of to escape from your daily life, the difficulties of your daily life. Oh, I really need to get away. Work has been so busy. I don't get along with my boss. I need to get away. Another common phrasal verb with get away is to get away with something. And that something is negative. For example, she got away with the crime. This means she wasn't punished for the crime. So she did something wrong, but she got away with it. She got away with stealing the car. Notice that verb ing, with stealing the car. To get off lightly. This is when you are punished for something, but you're punished less severely than you anticipated. So maybe you forgot to submit a report at work, but you got off lightly. Your boss didn't fire you, but they did remove you from the account. So you were punished, but you were punished less severely than you expected. We also use this more in a criminal context. She stole the car, but she got off lightly. So maybe she didn't go to prison, she only had to do community service. To get back. This is used to say that you return to your original starting point. So let's say you're at home, but then you go to the store and then you return back home. So now you can say, I got back at 7 o'clock. What time did you get back? Now you can specify the place. What time did you get back home, back to the office? Oh, I got back around 7. We commonly use this with your vacations. What time did you get back from your trip to Italy? Oh, I got back on Tuesday. You returned home from Italy. There's also the phrasal verb to get back to someone. You might say, oh, I really need to get back to John. When you get back to someone, it means you respond to that person. So if I say I need to get back to John, it means that John contacted me, but I have not replied. So maybe he asked me a question and I have not answered his question. I need to get back to John. Or John might say, when are you going to get back to me? When are you going to respond to my question? When you get back into something, it means you continue doing something that you stopped for a period of time. So let's say you decided to learn how to play guitar or piano, and you play guitar every week for months and months and months. And then you stop playing guitar. You get very busy at work. But then work is no longer busy, so you say, oh, I need to get back into guitar. I need to get back into my guitar lessons. So maybe you could use this with your language lessons. I need to get back into my English language class. Are you enjoying this lesson on phrasal verbs? You are probably a little bit confused as well because there are just so many phrasal verbs in English. And if you want to become very confident with phrasal verbs, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers on TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can learn the most common phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions very quickly and easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. So you can look in the description to learn more about becoming a member today. Now let's continue on with our next get phrasal verb. To get back at someone. This is used for revenge. So if you didn't get back to John, which means you didn't reply to John and you didn't answer his question, maybe John will try to get back at you. He'll try to get revenge on you. So maybe he'll tell everyone that you're not very helpful. And that's how he gets back at you. To get behind someone or something, this is when you support someone or something. So let's say your company has a new policy on their dress code and you like the policy. You can say, I can really get behind that policy. You support that policy. To get by. This is when you have just enough resources to survive. We most commonly use this with financial resources. So you might say, with inflation, I can barely get by. So it means you can pay your bills, pay your mortgage, buy groceries, but just enough. At the end of the month, you have $1 or $2 left in your account. I'm getting by. To get into trouble. I'm sure you do this all the time. When you get into trouble, it just means you enter that situation where you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, which is the trouble. So kids get into trouble all the time. That's why you don't leave your kids at home without an adult to supervise them, because they're going to get into trouble. They're going to write on all the walls with crayon or eat all the cookies in the fridge. They're going to get into trouble. To get on, this is when you board, which means to enter certain vessels, certain methods of transportation. So you can get on a plane, a train, a boat, or a bus. I got on the plane. You entered the plane. You boarded the plane. To get on is also used as an expression to say that someone is old or has become very old. So you might say, my grandma is getting on, which means my grandma is now quite old. She's become very old. My grandma's getting on, so she has difficulty getting on a plane. Now, what's the opposite of on? I'm on the plane. I got on the plane, so now I need to get off the plane. And remember, you only get off certain methods of transportation: planes, trains, boats, and buses. This is my stop. I need to get off the bus, get off the train. For vehicles, cars, vans, or trucks, you get in and get out of. I got in my car, I got out of my car. So don't confuse those two. We also use get in when you enter a room in a building or enter a house or a location. So this is very common at work. A coworker could ask you, oh, what time did you get in? They mean, what time did you enter the office? So you can also use it to mean, what time did you start your work day? Because when you enter the office building, technically you've started work. So what time did you get in is another way of saying, what time did you start work? Now in this case, although the opposite of in is out, we have an expression to get off, which means to end work for the day. So someone could ask you, oh, what time do you get off today? What time do you usually get off? What time are you getting off tomorrow? This means, what time do you finish work? Do you end work just for the day? To get out is also used as an expression of disbelief. So let's say your friend tells you, I won the lottery. Get out. Get out. Get out of here. Get out of town. So you can add get out of here, or less commonly, but still common, get out of town. It's just to show that I can't believe it. What? Get out. Get out. So if your friend says something very shocking or surprising, I'm moving to Antarctica. Get out. Get out of town. Why? Why are you doing that? When you get out of something or get out of doing something, it means you avoid doing something unpleasant. So I could say, I need to get out of cleaning the garage because that's unpleasant and I don't want to do it. To get together, this is when people organize socially. They join each other socially. So I might ask, what time are we getting together tonight? So what time are we going to meet each other, join each other, and have dinner, have a cup of coffee, go for a walk, do something social? Now, if you specify the noun, you need with. What time are you getting together with your friends tonight? You probably know this one, to get up. What time do you get up? This is when you leave your bed in the morning, first thing in the morning. So what time do you wake up? This is when you open your eyes. But then get up is when you actually leave your bed. So I wake up at 6 a.m., but I don't get up until 6:30. But how about this one? Get up to. What did you get up to last night? This is a common way of simply asking what someone did. Oh, what did you get up to last night? Oh, not much. I watched a movie. We also use this one though to imply that someone is doing something wrong. My kids are always getting up to no good. This is the same thing as getting into trouble. But in a general context, oh, what did you get up to last night? It's what did you do last night? To get across. This is to communicate your idea successfully. So as a non-native speaker, you might say, I have a hard time getting my ideas across. I have a hard time communicating successfully. And if you have a hard time getting your ideas across, someone might ask you, what are you getting at? What are you getting at? This is another way of saying, what are you trying to communicate? What do you mean? So if you're trying to explain something, but the other person doesn't understand, they can say, what are you getting at? Now, to get at can also mean to successfully reach something or find something or obtain something. So let's say I have a shelf and I have a hat on a very high shelf. I might say, I can't get at my hat. I can't reach my hat. To get rid of. This is when you throw away, so permanently remove unwanted items. So remember I said I wanted to get out of cleaning my garage. because there's so many things I need to get rid of. There's so many unwanted things in my garage that I want to permanently remove. So maybe once a year, you can go through your entire house and get rid of things. Get rid of unwanted things. To get wound up about something is when you get really angry about something. So let's say your father doesn't like politics in general. So every time he sees something in the news about politicians, he gets wound up. He gets really angry. But you might say to your dad, get over it. Get over it. To get over something is when you tell someone they shouldn't have strong feelings towards something else. And those strong feelings are usually negative feelings. So if your dad gets really wound up about politics, you can say, oh, just get over it. It's not a big deal. You can, of course, get over someone. Do you know this one? When you get over someone, it means you no longer have romantic feelings for that person. So after my divorce, it took me years to get over my husband. It took me years to stop having romantic feelings towards my husband. Now, someone could say, get over it. Stop being upset about the situation that you're no longer with your husband, but that might be a little insensitive. You can also get over an illness, which means you recover from an illness. It took me weeks to get over my cold. It took me weeks to recover from my cold. To get around, this is how you travel within an area. So if you're a tourist, you might Google, what's the best way to get around New York City? And of course, it's not by car. You don't want to get around by car because the traffic is terrible. So walking is the best way to get around, or taking the subway is the best way to get around New York City. When you get around to something or to doing something, it means you finally do something after not doing it for a long period of time. So let's say I was trying to get out of cleaning the garage because I didn't really want to get rid of all that unwanted stuff. But I finally got around to cleaning the garage. So I finally cleaned the garage after a long time of not cleaning the garage. To get it together is when you take control of your life or your emotions. So let's say your friend is really upset because she broke up with her husband and she has not gotten over him. And you want to tell your friend to just get over it. But instead, you tell your friend, get it together. Get it together. You need to take control of your emotions because your friend is crying all the time, or she's really upset, she's really moody, angry, not pleasant to be around. And you tell your friend you need to get it together, which is a little bit of tough love, but sometimes it's necessary. There are many phrasal verbs with get through that have different meanings. When you get through something, it means you endure or deal with a difficult situation. It was really difficult for me to get through my father's death. So my father died. Obviously, that's a difficult situation. Hopefully you don't say get over it because that would be very insensitive. But I had a hard time getting through my father's death. So you can use this in a personal situation. You can use it in a work situation as well. I don't get along with my boss, so I have a hard time getting through our meetings. I have a hard time dealing with our meetings because I don't get along with my boss. When you get through something, it can also mean that you successfully finished something that was very difficult or time consuming. I finally got through the report. So you finished it, but it took you a really long time. It was difficult. When you get through to someone, it means that you successfully contact them after numerous attempts of trying to contact them. So let's say I needed to get back to John. I needed to respond to John, but every time I called John, I got his voicemail. I could say, I'm having a hard time getting through to John. So I can't get back to John because I can't get through to him. But we also use to get through to someone when you're able to communicate something to someone in a way that they understand it. So I told my friend that she shouldn't quit her job, and I explained all the reasons why, and I finally got through to her. So I finally made her understand why she shouldn't quit her job. Your head is probably spinning right now with all of these phrasal verbs with get, but all you need is some practice, 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 and repetition. So let's do that right now with a quiz so you have a chance to review and practice these get phrasal verbs. Amazing job adding all of this vocabulary to your speech. Now, do you want me to make more lessons just like this? If you do, then put more in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. Now, there are so many phrasal verbs in the English language, so you can learn 50 more right here.